What's up, everybody? Welcome to Riffin with HB, where we talk about old school and underrated bands. And today we're going old school, talking about Tom Petty. Oops, let me swap up my camera views here. Cheers, welcome everybody. Got a pretty good episode planned. If you don't know Tom Petty, then you have to get out the rock you're sleeping from. It's not underrated bands today. We're doing old school, so um, I got a few notes to read, a couple fun facts, and then we'll get into a couple things. A couple notes that I have. Cheers, thank y'all for being here. Friday, what's up? Cheers, man. Maybe after the show we can do something together. Cheers. Let's get right into it. Right now we are um, 19. Um, oh my gosh. Hold on a second here. '76 from Gainesville, Florida. I don't know why I didn't say it on here like that, but okay. Anyway, over the course of Tom Petty's career, he sold more than 80 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling artists of all times. Um, Petty and the Heartbreakers were inducted into Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2002, and Petty was honored as um, Music Cares Person of the Year in February 2017 for his contributions to music and for his philanthropy. He also did a couple of acting things. We'll get into that in a couple of minutes, so in our fun facts. Petty's rock and roll interest and music, his interest in rock and roll music began at the age of 10 whenever he had an opportunity to meet Elvis Presley. In the summer of '61, his uncle was working on the set of Presley's film Follow That Dream in nearby Ocala, I believe is how you say that, and invited Petty to watch the movie's filming. And Petty instantly became a Presley fan. And whenever he returned that Saturday, he was greeted by his friends Keith Harriman, and soon traded his slingshot for a collection of Elvis 45s. And of that meeting with Presley, Petty said Elvis glowed, so it really had an impact on his music. And yeah, I've been running down a dream. You get what's up, man. You know what's up. um, he was a crazy, crazy guy, crazy rock and roll dude. Kind of embodied what it was to be somebody who played rock and roll. In 2006, Petty said he knew he wanted to be in a band the moment that he saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. Beatles were an inspiration for a lot of bands, especially a lot of bands in the um, 70s and 80s. So we know Kurt Cobain, bands like that. The minute that I saw the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show, and it's true of thousands of guys, they were they was oh my gosh, and it's true of thousands of guys. There was the way out. There was a way to do it. You got your friends, and you got your self-contained unit, and you making the music, and it looks so much fun. It was something I defined with, or sorry, I something I identified with. I had never been hugely into sports, and had been a big fan of Elvis, but I really saw into the Beatles that here's something I could do. I knew I could do it. It wasn't long before there was groups singing in all garages all over the place. So he later said in the Rolling Stones inspired him by demonstrating that he and musicians like him could get into rock and roll. Just people in garage bands making it up, sleeping in vans, making it all the way. One of the fun facts I have here is Don Felder, a fellow Gainesville resident who later joined the Eagles, wrote in his autobiography that he was one of Petty's first guitar teachers, although Petty said that um, Felder taught him to play piano. Okay, and His first band was Mudcrutch, which was shortly after he started playing music. He started the band, and the band included feature Heartbreakers, Mike Campbell, and Benmont Tinge, and was popular in Gainesville, but the recordings were unnoticed by mainstream audience. And after the split up, Petty reluctantly agreed to pursue his solo career. Um, and then Chinch decided to form his own group, and whose sound Petty appreciated. That I was watching a video before the show. Literally, they played an A chord, and that's how they got the sound of the band. They liked the sound of the A chord and the side, like the vibe of the sound. So inspired them to start a band. Really simple thing, pretty cool. Um, and then their first album peaked number 40 after the band toured in the United Kingdom, and the debut album that was in 1977. A lot of you guys probably know about the whole MCA dispute if you're a Petty fan. This is part of what I was talking about in Tom Petty documentary. It talks a lot about the dispute that he had with MCA Records. We've already talked about MCA a few times regarding Leonard Skinner and working for MCA. Petty was known as a staunch guardian of his artistic control and artistic freedom. In 1979, he was involved in a legal dispute with ABC Records, who was sold to MCA Records, and he refused to be transitioned to another record label without his consent. And in May of 1979, he filed for bankruptcy and was signed to the new MCA subsidiary, Backstreet Records. And in 1981, the upcoming Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album, which would become Hard Promises, was slated to be the next MCA release with the new list price of $9.98, following Steely Dan's Gaucho. And this is important to pay attention to right here. So this also called superstar pricing was $1 more than the usual list of $8.95. Petty voiced his objections to the price hike, and then the press and in the press, and the issue became a popular cause among music fans. Non-delivery of the album and naming it 89 or 898 were considered, but eventually MCA decided against the price increase, so they backed down on it. But basically, he wanted to keep his songs cheaper for his fans. Some outlets have claimed that the Red Hot Chili Peppers single "Danny California," released in May 2026, bears a close musical similarity to Petty's "Mary Jane's Last Dance." But Petty told Rolling Stones, "I seriously doubt that there are any negative intent there, and a lot of rock and roll songs sound alike." Also, Ash Chuck Berry rather. The the Strokes took "American Girl" from their song "Last Night," and I saw an interview with them where they actually admitted it. They made me laugh out loud. I was like, okay, good for you. If someone took my song note for note and stole it miraculously, then maybe I'd sue. But I don't believe in lawsuits much. I think there are enough frivolous lawsuits in this country without people fighting over pop songs. And we talked a little bit about it. I think it's important to mention this for a few reasons because one, we talked a little bit about how pop songs really can all sound the same. It's the same chord progression, so people are bound to end up making the same song. And he talked about that with there's Chuck Berry and even the Red Hot Chili Peppers here, for example. They make a song where it sounds very similar to what another band plays, and same similar sound and same chord progressions, so it has to be the same song, and that's not necessarily the case because music is infinite, but it's very easy to stumble upon the same three chord progressions. Um, Pretty cool little fact here. Petty married Jane Bino in 1974, and they had two daughters, Adria, a director, and um, Anakim, an artist, and Bayo told mutual friend Stevie Nicks that she met Petty at the age of 17. But Nicks misheard Bayo's North Florida accent, inspiring the song of her title, Edge of 17. So she misheard her say, "Yo, what's up, man?" Um, misheard her say age of 17 and said edge of 17, and that's how where this song comes from. Um, and here's another fun fact as well. Not really a fun fact, but a crazy fact. An arsonist set fire to Petty's house in 1987 in Encino, California. Firefighters were able to salvage the basement recording studio and the original tapes stored there, as well as his Gibson dub guitar. However, his signature gray top hat was destroyed, and the perpetrator was never caught. Crazy shit. Surely it was intentional, but who knows? People are crazy. Um, we're just gonna touch on this really fast. This is the sucky part. This is speaking about Petty's overdose. This is a 1970 or sorry, Jesus Christ, 2017, October 1st. His wife found him not breathing and cardiac arrest at their home, and he was resuscitated and taken back to the UCLA Medical Center in Santa Monica, California, where he was put on life support, and he died at 8:40 p.m. The next day. And there had been premature reports of death throughout the day, and Petty's memorial service was held at the Self-Realization Fellowship Lake Shrine in Pacific Palisades, Los Angeles. On January 19th of 2018, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner announced that Petty's death was due to an accidental overdose, stating multi-system organ failure due to resuscitated cardiopulmonary arrest due to a mixed drug toxicity, a combination of fentanyl, oxycodone, acetylfentanyl, fentanyl, all opioids, um, temazepam, and alplorozam. They're benzodiazepines and citalopram, and it's an antidepressant. I'm probably butchering these names, but basically a combination of benzos, opioids, and antidepressants. And it's a deadly combination. It's what kills people most common with drug combinations. In a statement on his website, Petty's wife and daughter said that he had a number of medical problems, including emphysema, knee difficulties, and most significantly had a fractured hip. And he was prescribed pain medication for these problems and informed on the day of his death that his hip injury had worsened, and that the statement read, it is our feeling that the pain was simply unbearable and that the cause of his overuse of his medication. We feel confident that this was, as the coroner found, an unfortunate accident. We'll get. I have a couple more things to speak on that in a minute, but we'll move on to some fun facts now. Um, Love is the Road was used in the first trailer for the Grand Theft Auto 6. I'm sure you guys have heard about the release, been talked about for a long time now, which is considered one of the most anticipated video games ever made. And this is this trailer gained over 90 million views on YouTube within the first 24 hours. And because of the intense bump in popularity, the song itself gained nearly 1 million YouTube views in the same time span and gained a 36,000% increase on Spotify and almost 250,000 searches on Shazam, and ranked second on the worldwide iTunes chart. So Shazam, if you guys aren't familiar, is an app where people can play a song. They can be out hear a song in public or play a song on their phone, and the app will try to distinguish what the song is that they're hearing, so they can figure out the artist. And the reason why people are using Shazam and why there's 250,000 searches is because young kids don't know about these older bands, and then when they hear them, and especially when they hear them in like a new light, like holy shit, this is badass, like modern day stuff, then it becomes like people who heard it in the 70s and 80s for the first time, they're like, wow, this is really badass. So kids are getting the same nostalgic feeling. They just need to be introduced to this kind of music, which is why I love doing this show, because somebody, even if it's one person, hears this and goes, even if they love Tom Petty, they're like, oh man, I love Tom Petty. Definitely have to check this out, man. Get some Tom Petty, play an album by Tom Petty, and really listen to him. Appreciate him for who he was as a musician. Um, I'll get to your comments here in just a second, guys. um, Obviously, we talked about he's from Gainesville, Florida. Um, he met Elvis at the age of 10, dropped out of high school to pursue music, and famously fought his record label to keep him album prices affordable for fans. A couple things we already mentioned. He has also voiced a character on King of the Hill for a few years, um, and was taught guitar by Don Felder, who was a member of the Eagles. Just to reiterate, in 1981, he refused to release the album Hard Promises until MCA Records agreed to lower the prices from $9.98 to $8.98. I wonder what they're paying for records now. I wonder if you were to buy a record, how much you'd pay for it. Does anyone know? Put in the chats if you know. Records or CDs. Um, Here it is. King of the Hill. He voiced the character Lucky in 28 episodes of King of the Hill between 2004 and 2009. And he also voiced himself in an episode of The Simpsons in 2002. Who hasn't? They had a cameo as the mayor of Bridge City and Kevin Costner as the postman. Yeah, that's a good point for actual record. Probably $20, give or take. Um, Tom Petty described marijuana and using it as a musical drug and an advocation. He was an advocating for its legalization. And while he was a longtime user, he also maintained a nuanced view of it, sometimes distinguishing his past heavy use from his later more moderate consumption. Let's see. I don't think I have the note in here, but I remember reading that they talked about how he would like smoke a joint through like over the course of a couple days, just hit it and then put it down. Um, it's funny because this is what I've been talking about a lot lately. In 2013, Rolling Stone interviewed Petty argued that marijuana should be legalized and treated similar to alcohol, stating that liquor is worse for you. There's a funny story here about Tom Petty's grandfather. According to a story recounted by Tom Petty himself, his parental grandfather, William Popewood Petty, killed a man with an axe in Georgia. Apparently, this is how they ended up in Florida, from Georgia. And according to the story, which Tom heard from his father on a tour bus in 1990, Tom Petty's grandfather and grandmother, who was a Native American, were attacked on a wagon on a logging road. And in the ensuing fight, his grandfather killed one of the attackers with a logging axe. Following the incident, his grandfather fled to Georgia with his family to live in Florida. And that's how Tom Petty started his whole history in Florida. Let me get to some comments right here. I'm getting kind of far ahead. Cheers, cheers, cheers. Thank you guys for being here. I know a guy that smoked so much opium he slept for 2 days. We thought he was gonna die. We kept checking on him. I've heard about opium; it's pretty bad. I remember Tom Petty wanted his CDs to be like $10, not 20. Yeah, I could imagine it's a game he never stopped playing. Because at a certain point, it costs you more to produce that record. And, oh my gosh. Yep, 10 to 20 for a CD album back then, for sure. For sure, show me in here. Oh gosh, lost my place. Um, there's a couple things here I want to talk about. We talked a little bit about you can call it the language of music or um, the Akashic records. We talked about it a lot about how ideas and thoughts come from the universe and songs, channeling. People call it. What's the way that Tom Petty worded it here? Um, Stream of consciousness is another great way to put it, where ideas and songs are just coming to you, and you write a song within a couple minutes, and you kind of look back like, wow, did I even write that, or how'd that happen? So the song Wildflowers, he wrote it in roughly 3.5 minutes, and often describing the process as pure stream of consciousness, a moment where the lyrics and music and chords came to him at once. Petty recalled, I just took a deep breath and it came out. The whole song, stream of consciousness, words, music, chords. Finished it. I mean, I just played it into a tape recorder and I played the whole song and I never played it again. I think he went on to say that he had to keep coming back again to make sure that the song was actually like good because it just came to him in a couple minutes. And it says here that because it's same, yeah, here actually is what I was just about to say. Because it came so easy, Petty admitted that he came back to the tape for days, thinking that there must be something wrong here because it just came too easy. While the song was written quickly, it became a title track for his 1994 album produced by Rick Rubin. And according to the biographer Warren Zanes, in interviews with Tom Petty, the song was written during the breakdown of his first marriage and was later described by his therapist as a song Petty was writing to himself for him to find his own freedom. Well, again, another thing we talked about. You find so many commonalities. We're just basically repeating ourselves every time we watch this show in a different way, but relating to different bands, they have different attributes, right? But this is exactly what we talked about, how sometimes the best bands are writing the best songs that you've ever heard in their hardest moments. Um, they're going through these extreme pains, these extreme just feelings of life, happy moments, sad moments, every moment in between. They cause certain people to have a certain sound and a certain vibe. And this is why Tom Petty, if you listen to his albums, just like most people, they tell a story and they change and they evolve just like the people do. Yes, sir. Tom Petty is who we're talking about there. We're going old school. So um, and again, just to reiterate, I have a little bit of a summary here. Describing Wildflowers is written as an instantaneous stream of consciousness, a process that took only 3.5 minutes in an interview. He claimed that initially he doubted the song's quality because it came so easily, yet the resulting track became a hallmark of his career. We talked about that with the Akashic Records. I feel like if you invite creativity into the room like a friend and you give it all the things that it needs, you give it a pen, you give it a paper, you sit there with your guitar or your paintbrush or whatever it is that you do that you love to do. You invite creativity in and give it the opportunity and let it use you as like a radio tower to be able to do that, because the universe doesn't have a mouth and hands, so it uses us to do it if we give it an opportunity to do it. And it seems crazy to somebody who starts off writing music. Like, how do you write a song in 3.5 minutes? It'd probably seem crazy to him because, like you said, he had to go back and do it. But when you hit that stream of consciousness, it's like the flow state becomes effortless. Here's another one as well. The story of Free Falling is a rare case where one of the biggest anthems in rock history was written in just 30 minutes as a way to make a friend laugh. Again, just a situational moment. The story is in 1988, Tom Petty was working on what would become his first solo album, Full Moon Fever, at the garage studio of Heartbreakers guitarist Mike Campbell. And Petty and his co-writer Jeff Lynne of Electric Light Orchestra were playing around with the keyboard when Petty stumbled onto a simple 3-chord riff. And Lynne encouraged Petty to keep playing the riff and to amuse him, and Petty started ad-libbing the now famous opening lines, "She's a good girl, she loves her mama," and then Lynne loved it and recorded it on a tape recorder and suggested the key phrase, "free falling." So whenever they reached the chorus, Petty initially struggled with how to fit the words into the melody, and Lynne told him to go up an octave, go up, to create a more dynamic style, and Petty tried singing free as a long note before following it with Free Falling. They both immediately realized that they were onto something. So that's how you guys know how the song goes. Um, it's just a dun 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 dun, dun, and if you're a musician, he's just following the chords around. But then whenever he gets to the chorus part, he opens up with the free, and then the guy was like, "Go up, like sing that shit." And when he did, that created the iconic sound that we all know. It's kind of interesting because it's something that you always think about when you hear a song. And you're like just riding down the road listening to Tom Petty. You're like, "How the fuck did this motherfucker come up with that?" And that's what I exactly what I was just saying. Like, you sit down with a guitar with some friends, a piano, and just start creating and see what comes out of it. Because you never know what will come out of something like that, doing something like that, even if it's just as a joke. Um, really can create something powerful. And the lyrics were inspired by Petty's daily drives between his home and at Beverly Hills and in the studio in San Fernando Valley. And he wasn't writing about a specific girl, but rather life's great pageant he saw on Ventura Boulevard, including the vampires of the nightlife crowd or the skateboarders and the sprawl of Reseda. So it's like you just saw the different people, especially in a place like California. There's a melting pot of people. Um, and despite the eventual success of the song, the entire Full Moon album was initially rejected by Petty's record label MCA, and executives reportedly told him that they didn't hear a hit on the record. And a few months later, a change in management at the label led to a reevaluation of the album, and Free Fallin' was released in 1989 and spent several months on the Billboard charts, peaking at number 7. So it just goes to show what we always talk about, like people backseat driving need to shut the fuck up because these people who are managing critics and stuff, they don't have a band. They're not touring because if they were, they wouldn't have time to manage a band. So I mean, how the hell do they think that they can tell what's good music or not? And if you were a band and now you're managing people now, it's still kind of crazy because your times have changed now. Bands are different, equipment's different, touring is different. So it keeps going on and on and on. Times never stop. It's really arrogant of people who don't have a band to be critics and to manage people who do, because you don't know what you're talking about. It's talking out of pocket. And then obviously for them to go number 7, whoever when they had the management switch, it seems like they knew that they had a problem, and when they switched, they obviously were like, "Yeah, this is great, put it out," and then they realized their mistake. So kudos to them. Um, I should have said this at the very beginning. How they even got their name, Heartbreakers. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and was after the following the breakup of the band Mudcrutch, which he was originally in. The name was chosen as a slightly ironic, funny nod to the 1970s psychedelic band names. Like Petty liked the name, and which was suggested when he was forming the new group of his band members. And he initially considered names like the King Bees before settling on the Heartbreakers. And as mentioned in American Songwriter, Petty felt that the name was funny, iconic, or sorry, a funny, ironic choice reflecting the era of eccentric band names like Chocolate Watch Band. So, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Um, I remember one of the best. I don't know if you guys, you probably haven't. Let's be honest here. Most people are a little older than me, so but there's a movie that is called Barnyard, and we used to watch it all the time whenever we were younger kids. A lot of kids my age have probably seen it. But in that movie, there's a cover of Tom Petty's "I Won't Back Down," covered by Johnny Cash. So if you guys have heard the cover of that song, that's where that comes from in that movie. So in that movie is a perfect example of why Tom Petty's so great because he can take something like a regular movie and really put the emotion and feeling into it because the guy felt pain and emotion. That's what killed the guy at the end of the day. Um, and then whenever you're riding down the road, you can turn just riding down the road into I'm just driving to work to now I'm like thinking and feeling again. You're like thinking about how this guy crafted this song and his feelings and emotions about what his mind was thinking when he did it, where he was at when he did it. Um, you just start to kind of think about it. I talked about this in the beginning. He's kind of the iconic image of what a rock and roller was. You can see it right here in this image. I mean, it's like it's not faking it. It's like a lot of people put on a facade or put on a swagger to try to, you know, their stage presence and all this. But Tom Petty wasn't that. He was himself. He lived and died that way. Yep, today's Tom Petty. Appreciate you guys for being here. We're about to wrap this up in just a minute, but next week we're going to be covering a band called Modest Mouse. You guys may or may not know. It's old school and underrated in my opinion. So I think that'll be the first old school underrated band that we've done yet. Um, but yeah, we'll be doing a band called, or an artist called K Flay rather, Saturday, to get another female artist in there, switch things up a little bit, be underrated. If you guys don't know K Flay, you probably have heard her songs before. You should check her out. Get ready for Saturday. K Flay, K dash Flay, Flay. So check out some of her music. I'm sure you've heard some of her songs before. It's totally different than most stuff that we've covered on the show. I think anything that we've covered on the show so far. So if you're looking for something new and different, check her out. And then Modest Mouse. This is a totally psychedelic funk alternative band, rock band. So we're gonna check them out on next Thursday's episode, and then we'll see what's happening next Saturday. I don't think I got anything else. I think we're just like I like how this is like, you know, this it starts to reaffirm when you look at these things like a case, like a police case. You're like, every single case that I look at, I start to notice that these people talk about these different commonalities, talk about sharing a brain and stream of consciousness and the Akashic records that I speak about and things like this. It's these ideas about if you try, if you just put in the fucking effort, pick up the guitar and pick up the paintbrush or pick up the like spatula or do whatever it is that you're doing and let the universe like speak to you and create these things, you'll do it. And even if it's just metaphorical, say that it's all woo woo and none of it's real, you you don't write a song in 3.5 minutes if you don't try. It's the whole point of it. So I think that's a big thing here, and especially whenever you get together and you're starting to collaborate with other people, now you're building that stream of consciousness. Now you're building it up. Well, again, whether it's metaphorical or whether it's literal, you're now multiple people or streams of consciousness builds up. Now it creates like a water spigot. So that's the whole idea. Um, I think that's basically all I got. Um, it's cool to see that he went as long as he did. I mean, the guy, he had like hip problems and still kept going. Let me go back actually. I think I have a comment here. It says Tom toured for 53 days with a fractured hip. On the day he passed, he was told that the hip had fractured gradually to a full break and that the pain would have been unbearable. Or sorry, that the pain would have been unbearable, leading to the overuse of the medication. This is what just a commenter on YouTube was saying. So I agree with that. It's like the sacrifices people are willing to make to go to the extremes of doing what they love and really pushing it. Ozzy Osbourne's a great example of that. The guy couldn't stand up on stage, bless the dude's heart, but he was still fucking rocking till the end. And that's the embodiment of what a rocker is. There's so many different personas of musicians, and you got to respect them all in their way. And for somebody to be still standing on stage kicking ass until the end, that's how it's supposed to be. Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, on and on and on. Ozzy, all these people just doing their fucking shit, kicking ass. And the Traveling Wilburys as well. Yes, sir, 100%. Yep. I appreciate you guys though. Yeah, go check out K Flay. It'd be a little bit newer music you guys probably aren't familiar with. But you've probably definitely heard some of her songs. So go check her out, and we'll be checking her out on Saturday to get you guys more familiar with her and her music and her background, what she does. And we'll be doing Modest Mouse on next Thursday. I appreciate you guys. Y'all have a great rest of your night, and catch you guys on the next episode. See everyone later. Bye.